and welcome to another Drive Time with Gary. As you can see today, we're not coming from my normal studio, which is my trusty pickup truck, but after over 180,000 miles, I think it decided it wanted to take a break, so it's going to be gone for a few weeks while I put a new motor in it. So today we're coming from a different studio. I want to talk about fear today. Since the Parkland High School shootings in Florida, I've seen a lot of fear by people on the internet, fear by people on TV, fear that often turns into anger. I think a lot of people don't realize that we become very emotional when we get scared of something. I'll give you a short story. When I was a kid, lived in the country for a while, and you would always run across snakes. And as most of you know, you always, because of the nature of a snake, you don't expect it until you're sitting on it, stepping on it, or putting your hand beside it, and then it tends to scare you a lot. And I was real scared of snakes when I was little. Actually, well into my adult life too. But and I recall that a few times when I would come across a snake, it would scare me a lot. And then I determined that I should kill the snake. But let's just say that all that fear that welled up in me expresses itself in anger. So not only did I kill those snakes, but let's just say I made sure I killed them real good. And then when I look back on that, that's that overreaction we get of anger and emotion that comes from being so scared. I think I even see that in some of the famous cases of police brutality, when police that weren't adequately prepared got into a situation that they were truly scared. And then I think that when your reaction to conquer that fear, I think it's an innate reaction, involves anger. Anyway, I see that anger as it's expressed in some of the language about people. I don't care whether it's towards the NRA, towards the Broward County Sheriff's Department, towards school officials, towards other parents, it just seems like there's a lot of anger, and I think that anger stems from a lot of fear. I think it's also a mistake to jump to too many conclusions about why or why not, or calling coward police that didn't enter that school soon enough. Hey, that's true. That's a mistake. And I'm sure those people, the rest of their lives, will be second-guessing themselves and regret that they didn't go in sooner. But none of us knows exactly how that person felt if you heard some of the audio from phones of students that were in the building when the shooting was going on. The sound of shooting in a hallway is a deafening, frightening thing. And I'm sure the panic, chaos, screams, may have frightened the people involved. And it is only recently that in response to active shooters, we tell the first responder, hey, even if you're on your own, go on in. It wasn't too long ago that, hey, for somebody in a mass shooting or in a big venue like that, that's the SWAT team is what you need to come in and do that. So wait on the SWAT team, or wait till enough of you are there that you can make a dynamic, make an entry and clear the building. Again, it's only recently that the tactics have turned to, hey, if you're a first responder and there's an active shooter, you go in by yourself. And I think that's a very brave thing to do. In my training, we'd call that an emergency assault. And I don't think any of us sitting out here can know exactly how that felt to be there. Yes, I would like to think I would go in. All of us would like to think we'd be the person that goes in. But I don't want to, I might fault eventually training and some other issues that wouldn't prepare a person better to go in. But hey, most of our police are not combatants, right? We don't expect police to be combatants. So the training and the funding that we have for police doesn't really prepare them for what's essentially a battlefield situation. They may go through some orientation training, but how many of them have been through scenarios where there are people running and screaming and yelling and shooting going on, and you have to enter that and identify targets and engage them. So I think that's a lot. One of my jobs in the military was to investigate for the Naval Safety Center diving deaths. And I recall too, in military diving, your dive buddy, you live and die by the dive buddy, and you never leave your buddy. We practice buddy breathing and other techniques. And, in these two cases, it came into question the actions of the dive buddy. And I found it probable that the dive buddy did not do all he could have to save the person that died in these two cases. But then again, when I looked at these cases, they're both extreme cases. And the dive partner, can you imagine if you're in the water, maybe it's night, maybe you're under ice, and you're in a very precarious situation, and suddenly your dive partner has problems and they start clawing at you and thrashing and grabbing at your mask, grabbing at your mouthpiece, and your immediate instinct is, hey, this person's going to kill me. So hey, maybe you break away from them. Maybe you unhook the buddy line that connects you. Whatever it takes to get away from that person. And I think it is a good ideal that we have, that you'll always stay with your buddy. But then I also try to put myself in that person's situation, and that natural instinct we have and will to survive that kicks in when somebody's trying to take away your breathing source. And I think that's just a parallel to the situation with the police down at Parkland High School. The real thing I want to focus on about fear today is how fear does lead to anger. This week in my quotes, if you click on the quote for this coming week, you'll find some quotes about fear, and that fear does lead to anger. And anger, according to quoting Yoda from Star Wars, fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, and hate leads to suffering. We see that in our country today. Hey, I'm not here as a politician or somebody here to make you feel better. I'm here to talk to you about ways to keep safe. But one of the things that makes people less safe is all the hate and fear that I see in our society today. And instead of pointing fingers so much, pointing it at the NRA, pointing it at the police, pointing it at school officials, everybody wanting to point somewhere. People making vile statements on the internet. Hey, stop being a part of the noise that's screaming about the problem and do something about it. And none of the measures that I've seen talked about are going to stop violence. Hey, almost forgotten is that this past week in a high school in Pennsylvania, a student with two 8 to 10 inch knives ran through the school, stabbing and slashing his fellow students, injuring 22, 5 of them critically. Hey, another student might choose to use a bomb as his weapon. Another student might decide to get a truck and mow down students as they're exiting school. Violence is violence, and hate is hate. And I think that the stuff that we see on the media touches the emotions of people and brings up fear, the fear of uncertainty. And you think, well, these kids were in a school there, but by the grace of God, that could be me, or it could be my kids. And that makes us afraid. And there's nothing we feel that we can do. So by God, we're going to point our finger at somebody else and say what they should do or what they should not do. And it's amazing that in times of fear, we will sell our souls to anyone or anything that we think will relieve that fear. And some of the solutions that I see bandied about in Congress, on the internet, and other places, especially TV, are measures that aren't going to keep us any safer, are not going to reduce the number of deaths, but they're ones that make people feel like they're doing something. I spent most of my life as a professional that was trained to take action in times of war, terrorism, situations of violence. When 9/11 happened, those of us that were professionals, particularly those of us with experience in counterterrorism, did not feel the panic and angst and insecurity and fear that the rest of America felt. We became very serious, deadly serious is the way I would describe it, and went about, as professionals go about, preparing to go take action. And I think it's the same now that people don't know how to feel, where we've become immune to dangers and death. So when something gets plastered all over the media, we react to it. Statistically, number of gun deaths has been trending downward over the last good number of years. But you wouldn't know that if you pay attention to the media. 470 children on average will be killed by their parents, not by being shot, choked, shaken, bludgeoned, starved. 470 kids every year on average in the United States. Where's the outcry for that? There are other things, statistics we can all pull up on both sides of the equation to try to make our point. And I'm not advocating one way or other on the issues about guns. But what I'm asking is that everybody take a look at themselves and say, hey, what is driving this emotion I have on this issue? And I think that if everybody honestly asks that, you'll find it's fear. And one of the whole reasons that I do what I do is because I want to take away people's fear. When you're trained, when you're prepared, when you feel that when a crisis comes up, life-threatening crisis, that you'll be able to make decisions and that will take care of it and preserve your life and those of your loved ones, you do have a peace of mind. So a peace of mind that when an incident like a school shooting happens, a Vegas shooting happens, a church shooting happens, you feel bad and horrible for the victims, and you pray for the victims, but you do not feel I do not feel a personal fear towards this or what will happen to my kids. Now, do I worry about the trends of our society? Heck yeah. But I'm going to bring up my children to be self-reliant and taking care of themselves, and when a situation, an emergency happens, to be collective and calm and take appropriate action. Hey, those are my thoughts on fear today on this Drive Time with Gary. Thanks for tuning in, whether it be on YouTube or the SoundCloud channel, and please tune in again next time. Thanks.